All right, what's up, everyone? Happy Monday. How's it going, Jen?
Great.
Everything still sound good in your end?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, for people listening, I apologize if things seem off. We're in a state of transition. What do we do? What are we doing? Is this renovations,
Yeah. We are
remodeling?
renovating. Yes.
So, we're renovating our house. We tore out the entire top floor flooring,
Yes.
and so now we have these empty rooms. We don't have any of our typical equipment setup. So I'm hoping that these laptops pull their weight, which they should.
Fingers crossed.
And yeah, so if things sound off, I apologize, and we'll be back to normal next week. So what are we talking about today? I think we're talking about education.
Yeah. The class that
We
we just went to.
Yep, we were recently in a class in Burlington, Vermont,
Yes.
and it was a lot of fun, actually. So before we get there, do you want to do your opening take?
Oh, I'd love to. I'll go
Gotcha.
first. Why not? Yeah, we are in the middle of chaos right now. So my opening take for the last week has been learning patience and just going with the flow. So literally, like Todd said, we ripped up our floors and our whole upstairs. So we are first floor living, where our bed has been in our living room, and all five of us and the dog are all just sleeping in our living room, which I am a routine person. So this throws my game off all week. But I think when you're in circumstances like this, you throw your family or anybody that's around you into it, you really see a little bit of who they are, because can they roll with it? Are they stressed out about it? And we killed it. Like everybody here just enjoyed the process of everything that was happening. Even our littlest, like every single person we had coming in the house, he was happy to meet them. He was excited to be around them. It was very cool. So I think when you are starting a project, and this project became bigger than we expected, because every time you change something, you are revealing other things that now need to be fixed or redone. So hopefully this project will be done in the next month. But until then, I think it's fun to throw a curveball at your family and then just kind of see what their personality traits are and who comes through. And everybody just came through as amazing humans. Even our oldest was sick through all of it. So even him just kind of going with it. It was very cool.
It sort of reminded me of when we went up north for the solar eclipse,
Yes.
where we just kind of winged it and we
Yep.
weren't necessarily sure how things were going to turn out. So obviously, having flooring put in your house, like everything had to come downstairs. So we've been living on two floors since we moved into this house. And now we got, essentially half of our square footage to work with. Plus, everything that was upstairs had to come downstairs for the most part, except for a few big pieces. So it's cool. Like we knew the outcome, like we knew what the floors were going to look like, but yeah, knowing how that's all going to work. Some nights we're like, you know what, let's just order food for dinner. And it was fun. It felt like I was ready to be finished with it by the end. It reminded me of camping. I think I told you that the other
Yep.
day, where I don't mind camping, but when you get towards the end, like if you go on a long camping trip and it's just like, I need a proper shower, like I
Yeah.
need certain things. And we had showers, so that wasn't exactly it, but it was like, where are my clothes? I
Yeah.
don't know, somewhere with other people's clothes on top of them and just, yeah, mishmash, I guess.
Yep.
So my opening take is actually um, a question, I guess, in a way. And it is to just ask yourself, like, now what? And so what I mean by that is to start off, it's like, think this, okay, it happens, right? And I think if people start to picture that, I might have talked about this before, but I think if people start to like look at their life that way, like, okay, it happens, so what? Um, I think people would be happier. You know what I mean? Like someone
Yeah.
cut you off in traffic. Okay, it happens.
Yeah.
You have a client that doesn't show up. Okay, it happens. Um, if you make a mistake, right? A lot of times people beat themselves up over mistakes that are probably they shouldn't be beating themselves up over. Just ask yourself, like, okay, it happens. And then what's next? That's
Love
my
it.
opening take.
I like it.
Cool. All right. So, education. We went up. You assisted the class, which was very nice for us from our salon. We had 8 in total go to the class over 2 days. So, half of the class was in Burlington, Vermont, half was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. It was a cutting class. And obviously, I went to the class you were at because we're married. So why would I go to the other class? But I will say that it helped a lot to have somebody that I knew and that knows me. I was able to take, I think, more out of it than if I had been. I knew the other people too, but either way, obviously not as well.
Yeah.
And I had that same conversation with part of our staff. So, yeah. Do you want to talk about the class or anything?
Yeah.
Or
So I think
end
it's
it there?
cool. Yeah, I'll go on a few things. So a year ago, this cutting class came to Hooksett, and I was excited to take the class with DJ and just see what he had to offer as a hair cutter.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about what it was or who it was.
So it was DJ Muldoon.
You can do that.
And, his, I think, like cutting education is knowledge destroys fear. So he came here about a year ago, and I have some people in the industry that are friends of mine still that cut hair, and they were like, if you're going to go to a cutting class, this is your cutting class. And I talk about it often. I don't think there's a lot of good education out there, and I'm very particular about where I first spend my money, but also like where I give my time. My time is way more important to me. So if I'm going to take a class and it's going to waste my time, I'm like really annoyed. And there are a lot of educators out there that make it more about themselves than actually teaching. So I'm generally not taking much. But anyway, I decided to go. The class was amazing. I took it with Corey from Vivid Hair Salon in Concord, and we went together, and just fun to go cut some hair. And I learned a ton. And I came back and was like, all right, that was cool. So then when I was in Australia, DJ was there and he did that class again, and I took even more out of it. And then this time coming back around to the States, I was offered to assist one of the days. I picked the Burlington day because it was a smaller class in a very creative venue, and I thought it'd be really fun. And then when we offered it to our staff, we offered it in a way of, first of all, Todd and I are co-signing on this person that's doing this class. We know it's good education. We know you'll get a lot out of it. There were a few of our staff that this year, Todd and I laid out an education plan, and cutting was on it. So we take care of the cost of this class, and I basically was like, you guys need to go. And then it was even cooler because the one I was assisting, I'm like, if you're nervous about taking a haircutting class or you're just unsure, if you want to come to Burlington, you have me to help you and really help you understand the cutting. So there was 4 out of that went to the Burlington day. And go ahead.
I just want to touch on something because I see online often that, like what you just said, you said you need this class, you're going.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not what I would consider mandatory, but I think as a leader, you have to know when it's time to push people, whether they want to be pushed or not, and you have to know how to push people.
Yes.
And so by having Jen go in and say, hey, we're paying for this class, you're going. First of all, by paying for it, we're providing value, obviously. Right. It's not just, hey, there's this free class, you have to attend it. But it makes them, buy in a little bit, even though it's not, we cover 100% of the class, but there's buy-in because we told them like, hey, we're paying for this for you guys to go. And I just think that's important because I see a lot of people online that are like, well, I can't mandatory, or, you have to pay people for stuff and whatever, but it's not what we're talking about here.
Right. And
this is getting people outside of their comfort zone. This is, like I said, understanding your team, and as a leader, knowing when to lean, into them or on them to nudge them or to spin kick them through the wall and make them go in a direction. Like,
that's our job, right? That is our job as a leader. Yes.
Yes. We all need that. So go ahead.
And no, I love that you pointed that out, because the people that I really was like, this would be good for you, I did approach them all very differently. One was, I signed you up. So you're going. And she's like, okay, I'm going. And the other one was more like, this will be a great class for you. I really think like you should consider going. And I know that like it's uncomfortable for you. So like, you should come to Burlington with me. And everybody appreciated it. Even the ones that went to the Portsmouth class, they still said it was great. But after hearing from you guys that went to the Burlington class, they were like, we probably should have just made the track and all went together, because you're right. You had all 4 of the learners from Hello had me to help them and to have me to help them after too. Right. So it was a really amazing experience. I think, again, it does come down to when you're looking at education, who's the one teaching it. I think you should look at the venue and where it is and how many people are going. Like, what you have to really kind of hone in on what's best for your learning environment. Like if it's a smaller environment, then you need to reach out and figure out, hey, this class looks good to me. Can you tell me how many people you're opening it up to? Because the one in Portsmouth was open to 30 people. For most people, that's too much. And, what am I going to get out of that? Like where the one in Burlington was open to 16 people. So I think a lot of times when people go for education, they might be like, oh, this guy's cool, I'm just going to take his class. All right, well, do a little legwork. Like it's your job to do the research to make sure first it's a person you truly want to learn from. I think right now there's a lot of people doing some social media education, which is great, but they're not actually teaching in person. And those are different things. So you also need to make sure that maybe what you're taking for their content in their online courses, what does that look like in person? And is it worth it? Is it worth your time? Is it worth your money? What am I going to get out of it? And I challenge you to reach out and make sure when you're signing up for something that it truly is a good fit for you from all of those perspectives. And this one I knew we could co-sign on because I'd taken the class. I've been around it. So to me, it was one that I was co-signing on. And I think most of our staff was excited to go. And even some of them at first were like, well, I don't know, I've got this going on. And then they all cleared their calendars. And it was fun to see them go as a group. So you have this, kind of team building over education and then being together, which was really cool too. And then, of course, for me personally, for my career, it was really neat to a year later be asked to come and assist and really help with the class and with learning. And that was just a very fun thing for me. I'm proud.
Yeah, that's really cool. So for people listening who are like, maybe they're overwhelmed or maybe they're confused. There's so many online educators. There's so many, just everybody's a freaking educator, right? In this industry.
Yeah.
So what is there like a short list of things people should look for? Should they reach out to the educator? I know you've done that before.
Yeah.
I've done that as well. How do people sort of curate? How do they filter all of the noise that's online? Because I get requests to host classes at our spot like all the time. And honestly, the majority of them I ignore because they're just like a cold message through Instagram or an email. An email I'm more likely to reply to because I know you took the time. But
effort, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of classes that people are like, hey, I'm, a blonding expert and I'm coming to northern Massachusetts or northeastern Massachusetts, whatever. And, you should be there. I only have a couple spots left. And I get it. They're trying to fill their classes, but it's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
So how can people vet that?
So I think, just like any business decision you make, you have to have a list, right? What you might need to ask yourself, what are you looking to get out of any education you take? The pros and cons. So, a lot of times I think people just look for the easy way out, which is just demos rather than demo with a hands-on. You just don't learn as much. But I think you could absolutely either, who's putting on the class? Is it somebody from social media? Then I guess you reach out to them, like get a feel for them. Like, hey, again, I would ask, what's the venue look like? What's the size of the class? Can you give me a little details of what you're going over? Because is this going to be the right learning vibe for you? If it's your distributor that's putting it on, then you would reach out to your distributor and ask those same questions. Because I really do feel the venue, the class size, those things matter. And then I would ask really about the content. So for some people, the way like DJ does it, he splits the head in 4 quadrants and does little mini haircuts on each quadrant. For a lot of people, that's a bit much, right? And they might not be able to handle all of that content. Maybe you need someone that's going to go through 2 full haircuts. Or maybe if it's a blonding class, like I want someone that's going to do I want a real model. I want to see what they're doing on a live model rather than a mannequin. I don't know what each person's like desire is out of education, but if you don't know what you want to learn or what's going to really help your toolkit and build your business personally and professionally, then you're just out there like the wild, wild west taking any class possible. So I would start with, and we do it with our staff, like every year, like, what we want to see out of them, what we think they could work on, how we can get them a little uncomfortable so that they can grow and learn and always be pushed just enough that they feel new and inspired. So I think it's curating a list of what does make you inspired. What could you be using to better yourself? Like, what are you not doing well at? Or what are you either having redos, or what do you feel not confident about? Those are what you need out of that class. And then it's really divulging into that class. You're going to get hits and misses. It's just going to happen. So when you get a miss, you should generally really learn from that what didn't work in that class environment for you. Now go back to that list and be like, okay, when I'm looking for classes, I want to make sure it's positioned like X, Y, and Z. And if you have a class that was great, why was it so great? And sometimes it could even just be the vibe. It just depends. There's people that just bring great energy and you took a few things, but you felt inspired. So, that's kind of, I guess, where I would start. You really need a mission statement of what you want to get out of education.
So what you're saying is it's sort of personal preference. It's how it's what you want and what you want to take out of it and how it's delivered and all those things. But
Yeah,
it has to be in a way that's going to resonate with you.
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Wouldn't you agree? I mean, otherwise you're just
Yeah.
yeah, someone could be cool on Instagram. Don't get me wrong, but you could take their class and be like, that was shit.
A lot of times so I look at the Instagram thing and it turns me off at this point because we've had so many people that lead with that. Like I've had people reach out and they'll say, hey, you should have this guy at your salon because he has, 400,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, what the hell does that do for me?
Nothing.
I don't care that he went viral overseas. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't care about that stuff. And I think a lot of people, as they work through the industry, like so when I got into hair, I was obviously older. It was a career change for me to get into this industry. But a lot of people are younger and they're sort of like enchanted by that stuff. Like they see the followers and they think somehow someone else's followers does something for them.
Googly eyes, like, whoa.
Yeah, they're almost like starstruck. And I'm like, these are just people with big followings on Instagram. It would be like anybody with a big following. I'm sure there's, some bakers out there with giant followings. Like, does that help you just because they have a big following? I guess if you wanted to be a baker. But so if you look at it logically, like the big following has nothing to do with the quality of the content.
Agreed. Don't be duped by that, right?
I think a lot of people are because we would get when we first launched Hello, it was during the pandemic. So like say maybe a year in, we had a completely different staff, but they would come to us and be like, can we bring this person in from Instagram? Can we bring this person in from Instagram? And we were like, no, like why? What does that do? That's not even like our style, or our vibe. So I like to
find people that doesn't even matter. They're just really good at what they do and you'll just connect with them, right?
Yeah, I guess some people just want to be able to tag somebody with a big following thinking it's going to do something for them. But it's at the end of the day, it's really, it's the actionable things that you can take and make happen immediately. And then it's like, how much can you practice down the line and improve on?
Right.
Those are kind of the things that I look at. The person obviously needs to be cool or I don't want to be there.
Absolutely.
But it's like, did taking that class, because look, we have, so for us, and I know this isn't for everyone across the board, but some people this will resonate with. We have 3 kids, we have a dog, we have a house, we have a business. So to drive 3 hours north, spend the night, which was fun. We got to go out to dinner and you and I got to hang out and that was really cool too. But to spend that time away has to like be worth it.
Absolutely.
All right. That's all I had. That was my little.
I like it. That was great.
My little
I think
rant.
if anything, anyone listening, if you've never thought about when you go to take a class, like, is it your learning style and is it the class size? Like those are things that I think people forget to like almost ask the right questions. Like, is this going to be a great class for me? Then like what you're saying, get duped and there's this class coming, I got to go. And I think you have to be honest. Do you truly want to learn something new and be able to do it? Or are you going just because somebody has a bunch of followers? Like, I don't care where you sit, but just be honest with yourself what you're trying to get out of it. For me, it's always to get better behind a chair. And then it's always to take better ways for me to be an educator. Like when I took DJ's class, I was like, that actually next week I was teaching a haircutting class. And I approached it completely different in a new learning style because I was like, I can see how this could work better for what I want to put out for my own content, right? And it was great. We did 3 full haircuts and they learned a ton. And they actually had been at DJ's class, so we were able to kind of work through some stuff that didn't resonate that day that I could show them in a different way. So it was just super cool, right? But again, I think it's just coming up with a list of, what do you need to get out of it? Where do you want to be professionally this year? And then what classes answer those questions. And don't be afraid to ask a bunch of questions to either the person teaching it or to the distributor who's ever running that course.
Yeah. And so the other numbers thing that I guess I don't get annoyed by, but I do understand it, but I disagree with, I guess I'll say, is the class size. I would rather pay $1,000 and have less seats.
Yeah. You'll learn
so
way more.
A lot of people would probably be like, that $1,000 I'll just charge $200 and I'll get 5 people. Well, what does getting the 5 people do? Say you're a distributor or you're the educator putting on your own class. Would you rather teach 5 people or 50 people? You probably would say 5, but it doesn't look as cool online.
Right.
So you lean towards the 50, even though it can be the same amount of money. And we've talked about micro education, and you've done some one-on-one education with people. And the majority of the stuff we do at our salon is, I would say, micro education. Yep. Like it's maybe a handful of people at a time with 1 or 2 people teaching.
Yes.
And I just think that the value there is so much higher. It's the same thing when I had my gym. Everybody wants to do group classes. That's fine. They're fun. You're not getting as much out of that as you are working one-on-one with me. Absolutely. It's just impossible. It's not the same. It's not even comparable. Right. It's 2 completely different beasts. So like for me, again, I'm not necessarily looking to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for each class, but I see the value there. And if it's worth it, or it's worth it to me is Absolutely. What I meant to say. Yeah.
When I wanted to learn or at least dabble in hair extensions, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, I watched a bunch of videos and then I found somebody that I was like, will you come and work with me one-on-one on a Sunday at my salon? Like, I want to learn this. And I knew one-on-one was my quickest way to get good. And we worked with a mannequin and then on a human right away. And then from there, I took a few more group classes that were offered in the area, but I understood the value, just like you said, of hiring somebody just to work with me for a day to pick their brain and really get the most out of that money. And I didn't regret it. It was great. I learned so much and now I'm doing hair extensions, right? But I also understood that I was paying that and it might be a service I don't want to offer, but I wanted to try it and I wanted to do it the most efficient way. Like, show me as much as I can. Like, there's so many different ways to do it. I want to know this way with you. Boom. And then I'll make a decision of what I want to do with that. But in a bigger setting, I wouldn't have taken much out of it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's the way to do it. And you'll still see people that are posting like, hey, through this class and 200 people showed up. And I'm like, out of those 200 people, how many of them got anything out of it? Yeah. And how many of them did you actually impact? Did you actually change? With. Yeah. How many? Yeah. Well, connect with. Yeah. At that class, I had a chance to hang out with DJ, chat with him a bunch of times because it was a smaller class. Right. But you see a lot of like I just said, like numbers, like people want to flex with numbers. And I'm like, that's cool. But how many of those people applied anything from that class? We've been to classes where it's like, it's just, there's a lot of people and it's just, what are you really getting out of that other than to post pictures on Instagram and say, I was at this with this person with a lot of followers. Right. And again, I'm not trashing that, but I'm kind of trashing that because it's kind of, to me, it's corny and I don't care. I said it. Someone wants to fight me. Come on, fight you.
It's awesome.
I think that's it. I think that's good. We wanted to keep this one brief because we're kind of up in the air and we're not sure about the quality and that stuff. But do you have any closing thoughts?
I would say figure out an education plan for yourself of truly what you want to learn and find the right education to empower that so that you truly learn and can move forward. And learning is always uncomfortable. That's good. That means you're changing, you're growing. So don't be afraid of that.
I didn't really have a prepared closing take.
Oh,
yeah. I thought I'd come up with something during the course of this chat. I guess mine is to just do, I guess, what's right for you, and always kind of do that. Like, don't just take a class because someone says this person's coming and you have to take their class. Don't just sign up for stuff just because somebody has a lot of followers. Don't just do something because it seems like what everyone else is doing. Generally, my rule of thumb is if everybody's headed towards this way, I'm going to go check out what's over there.
Namesies.
So, all right, guys, we have a new setup on our email newsletter weekly list. So get on that if you haven't yet. It's a 3-2-1 style setup. So it's going to be really cool and lots of information on there, lots of business insights and fun stuff. So get on there. Yeah. Anything else, Jen?
Nope.
All right. Let's go get some lunch.
Let's.
Bye.
Bye.